My name is Ahman Baer. I'm president of Baer Brothers Incorporated and Mendelson Egg Company. We're an egg production and marketing company that have been in the business since 1965. My father started the business. I grew up in it and continued operations after I got married, and when he retired, bought into the farming operation. Currently, there are 4 brothers that are involved in the egg production business here. We have a total of 850,000 layers and grow all our replacement pullets. And typically with the expansion of what is considered to be large-scale livestock operations, we ran into opposition from neighbors and regulators in terms of causing too big an odor problem, too many flies, all the typical complaints, reducing property values, all the litany of complaints you hear from any livestock operation was we were being blamed for all of that. It did get to the point where every time we hauled manure, we did notice an increase in flies in that area. We'd go out in the fields after hauling and you'd see a lot more flies around. We finally came to the conclusion that we would have to, if we wanted to stay in the business and keep reasonable relations with the neighbors, we had to find some method of addressing the fly problem. We started composting through our entire farming operations. We were using a lot of larvicides and sprays and chemicals to try and keep the flies under control. On our operations during a typical summer, we would spend upwards of $50,000 in the control of flies. Since we started our composting process 4 years ago, I would be willing to say that we haven't spent $500 a year on miscellaneous fly sprays and a little bit of bait stuff we might keep around, but it's basically eliminate any costs we have for fly control. Prior to settling on the composting method of controlling flies, we had investigated several others. Initially, we tried to just take the raw manure and disc it down. We tried moldboarding it down. We tried several different methods of just deeply incorporating raw manure. None of those methods was achieved any level of success that we were satisfied with. In the process of investigating methods of fly control, initially we used the larvicides that are feed through larvicides that go into the feed and then give you some larvicide protection. In our work with entomologists, we discovered that no matter what type of a chemical type process we use to try and control the flies, flies will eventually develop an immunity to that product simply because they have such a rapid turnaround and hatch rate. They're developing a new generation every 7 to 10 days during the warm months. During our conversation with the entomologist, we asked them, well, what is there that flies will not build a resistance to? He had a simple answer, and that was heat. Then we started looking at different ways of generating heat. We investigated the potential of drying manure, but that was just absolutely cost prohibitive because of the fuel costs. We chose the brown Baer because of the fact that it can work on a standard farm tractor. The tractor itself is a $60,000 tractor, the TV 140 we use, but that can be used for many other operations within our farming operations. The composting process itself is only carried out during April, May through September, and the tractor is available the balance of the year for snow removal and any other kind of work we need done with a tractor. Currently, our composting process, we generally start about April. Typically, we'll start right about the times when the farmers are starting to plant the fields and there's no more fields available to spread manure on. Then we'll start our composting process. We continue that through September, October, depending on weather conditions and availability of land for raw manure application. Once we had decided on a method to compost, to utilize composting to generate the heat, we realized that we were in an area where a lot of wheat is grown. We have a lot of availability of straw. There's sunflower hulls, there's corn stalks, sawdust from sawmills. There's numerous carbon sources available to us. It took some time determining what ratios and mixtures work the best. Either any method will work. You'll get a more rapid heat buildup the finer your carbon source is, the more rapid a heat buildup you'll get once you start your compost process. And that needs to be taken into consideration. Currently, the process when we are making our compost consists of, we work on a weekly manure removal basis from the houses. Alongside each of the layer houses, we have a concrete slab where we lay down approximately a 1 foot thick layer of carbon that could be sawdust or straw or sunflower hulls. Then we go in the barns, get the manure out, and stack that on top of the carbon we have laid there. And then the brown Baer compost turner comes through. We probably turn that 2 or 3 times to get a good mix. And then within 24 hours, we're probably at 125 degrees. And what you'll notice will happen is if you've got fly larvae in there, they'll all migrate out to the outside 1 inch of the pile where the temperatures stay cooler. Then the following day we'll come and turn that back in, and we continue doing that until we've got a good larva kill and no more active fly breeding on that pile. At that point we'll move the carbon, the compost pile down to the clay pad. Once the compost has been moved from the concrete slabs at the sides of the buildings down to the compost pad, we remix the rows down there and turn it about twice weekly. After approximately 2 to 3 weeks, you'll notice some heavy shrinkage going on. The piles get smaller, and sometimes you can blend 2 piles together. But during this process, we're also bringing raw manure from the barns back down to the compost pad and seeding it down with raw manure. This helps in 2 ways. It decreases the carbon cost, and we've also been able to dramatically increase the amount of nitrogen, not the nitrogen, but the phosphorus and potash in the compost, increasing the value of it. Total process from start to finish, when we first move the manure out of the barns, and when it's completed down at the compost site and stacked up ready for hauling, would be approximately 60 days. During that 60 days, we've run the temperature up to 145 to 55 degrees, probably half a dozen times during that time frame. Typically what happens as your compost is completing, it cools down, and that's the point where we start adding more raw manure to add the additional nitrogen and moisture required to get the heat to build back up again. Our process that we're using right now, we're composting from approximately 450,000 birds. We produce approximately 2,000 ton of compost, 2,000 to 2,500 ton a year of compost. One of the big advantages to the brown Baer system is that during the composting process, the compost windrow is moved approximately 10 feet each time you roll a pile. As we're rolling a pile across the compost pad, we continually work it from the inside of the pad to the outside edges. And typically by the time the pile has been moved to the outside edge, it's done and completed its compost cycle. And then we simply roll the piles together and form a larger stockpile. That helps to eliminate the need to actually pick this up and transport it and move it again someplace else. The actual machinery cost roughly between $80,000 and $90,000. The clay pad about $15,000. This size unit that I'm composting with would easily handle a 1,000,000 bird operation. Our primary objective in getting involved in the composting process was to improve relations with neighbors, have an effective fly control program, and improved relations with the regulatory community. We believe we've been successful in all of those areas. Since we've been composting, we've never had one complaint concerning odor or flies when we've been spreading the compost. In terms of marketing on a long-term perspective, if you want to get all of your costs out of this process, you will have to develop a marketing plan to sell the product. Initially, we gave a lot of it away as test results. We would test fields for farmers. We would tell them that we'll spread half your alfalfa field with compost. You put your commercial fertilizer in the other. The only thing we required from them was that we got the yield results back after they had done so. In trial after trial we've done, we've seen 25 to 45% increases in yields on alfalfa. I have started now to work with local golf courses. We spread our first golf course last fall, and the owner is so pleased. He's been there approximately 25 years. He said he's had the best grass production he's ever had. One of the other primary markets we attempt to cover with this product is the organic production area. The organic production area is an area that they're required to have nutrients, but it has to be from an organic base. The heat cycles that we go through, we've had the organic certifying organizations look at it, and our product is all certified as organic. After 10 or 15 years of regulators and county commissioners and pollution control representatives receiving complaints about our farming operations in this area, last winter, after this is the fourth year into our composting project, the University of Minnesota Extension Service awarded our family farms here with the Ag Innovations Award for adopting the composting process and developing a market for the product and the better relations we have with our neighbors. This was done by the University of Minnesota in 1998. The results from this first trial year of composting at the egg layer operation are encouraging in some respects. There were virtually no flies in the source barns, and there was virtually no fly breeding directly in the piles on the pad. These observations are attributable to weekly barn cleanouts and the heat of composting in the piles. Respectively, our laboratory assays also indicated that composting rendered the manure unsuitable for fly development. And I'm still quoting, "It is important to note that these effects were permanent. Even rehydration of the product to 70% moisture in the laboratory did not return measured fly breeding units to the previously high levels. Thus, the product should present no hazard for off-site fly breeding, whether the product is stockpiled or applied as fertilizer."